From Boca Raton, Florida, Rabbis Efrem Goldberg, Philip Moskowitz, and Josh Brody are taking you behind the Bima. The BRS rabbis schmooze about contemporary issues and talk to special guests who give a behind-the-scenes look at how they got to where they are and what keeps them going. Welcome to Behind the Bima.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 9 p.m. Wednesday night. I'm your host, Rabbi Efrem Goldberg, joined by my colleagues and dear friends, Rabbi Philip Moskowitz, who's at his desk like a grown-up and a big boy, and Rabbi Josh Brody, who looks like he is in a cave. And it must be...
Behind the Bima.
Rabbi Brody, you look like you're actually behind a Bima. Where are you right now?
Well, I was just in a closet, but you guys told me it was too much noise. Listen, the last time my daughter graduated and I had an excuse... I missed the graduation. I was in Israel. But this time I didn't miss it, but I just stepped out for a minute.
So you are in the middle of your daughter's high school graduation right now.
There's a light here. It's actually, no, they did her part already, so I didn't miss anything. They're speaking about each student. They've already given out the diplomas. I haven't missed anything about her.
But graduation's still going on right now. You just stepped out, you found a closet, and you're hiding in it.
Well, I was in a closet. You said it made too much noise. I ran to the car.
Oh, you're in the car now.
I'm in the car.
Okay. Rabbi Brody, you received the Unity Prize. I think now you deserve the Father of the Year Prize.
I'm like behind the beam of the award prize right now.
Behind the Bima Prize. Really, really outstanding. I want to begin, let's begin by acknowledging and thanking our sponsor for Behind the Bima tonight. Generally sponsored in honor and appreciation of Rabbi Tzvi and Efrat Sabalovsky. We'll speak more about them in a moment. And Congregation Or HaTorah's building campaign. Tonight's episode is sponsored by the Zwelling Law with offices in Boca Raton and Chicago. Big mazel tov to our dear friend Avi Zwelling on opening his new office in Chicago. Avi is a great legal counsel. He's a great member of our community. He has worked tirelessly. He and his family know his wife, his family for a very long time. And the Zwellings are great leaders in our community, selfless, and he's a great lawyer. If you need a wartime consigliere, Avi Zwelling, excellent. So we get sponsored a lot by lawyers, I noticed. I don't know what that says, but we love all these lawyers. So big mazel tov, Avi, on the Boca Raton office. Big mazel tov on the Chicago office. And tonight is sponsored in honor of our Rebbe, Rabbi Sabalovsky, and Rebbitzin Sabalovsky, and Congregation Or HaTorah, their shul, which is embarking on a building campaign. So everyone see I'm posting the website, but if you visit charity.orhatorah.com, 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 they're doing a matching campaign. Rabbi Sabalovsky, our Rebbe, an extraordinary, enormous Talmid Chacham, a great, modest Anav. Rebbitzin Sabalovsky has been at the forefront of working on Shidduchim, Why You Connects, and so much more. And the Sabalovskys mean so much to us and to the Jewish world, and their shul is undergoing this campaign, and everyone can and should be part of it. Take a moment. We'll post the website again. Take a moment, go on there. Just do something. You're building Torah. When you do that, you're building Torah. Every moment you could save Rabbi Sabalovsky from having to raise money so he can get back to knowing Kol HaTorah Kula and teaching Shiurim. If you've never heard Rabbi Sabalovsky Shiurim, go on Why You Torah, and you won't believe the clarity, the scope, the depth, the penetrating analysis. Rabbi Sabalovsky is the best. A little behind the Bima trivia. Rabbi Sabalovsky was my camp counselor when I was a kid. Morash HaKollel in the 1990s, early 90s. Morash HaKollel, early 90s.
Elementary school.
You want to know who my camp counselors were? Morash HaKollel, early 90s. My camp counselors were Rabbi Sabalovsky and Rabbi Baruch Simon.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, that's who I gave a hard time to when they had to wake us up in the morning, and that's who I need to apologize a lot still to. But anyway,
Rabbi Huda Balsam from DRS. He was my camp counselor, my first camp counselor.
Yeah.
So, you've never heard of any of my camp counselors. Let's just say
we are. We're very blessed.
I love
our Torah world is very blessed to have Rebbeim like Rabbi Simon, but Rabbi Sabalovsky, his shul or HaTorah, their building campaign where he can continue to shine the light of Torah. Do your part. Mazel tov to Avi on the Boca.
They have a great Gabbai there, from what I hear, also. So everyone should support the Gabbai there as well.
A Moskowitz Gabbai.
That's right.
Moskowitz Gabbai.
Now, Rabbi Moskowitz, at what age did you realize your brother was destined to be a Gabbai?
Well, my brother was always quite precocious when it came to laning, leading, davening for the Amud, So it was very early on. In fact, part of the reason why I haven't leaned since my bar mitzvah was because whenever he and I would go somewhere, so he hates speaking, like literally hates speaking. So he would always take the laning, and that left speaking for me because I wouldn't lane. He would always do the laning. So I got stuck with the speaking. So I became the speaker and he became the gabbai, and it kind of worked out well. But always looked up to my brother, always been a role model for me in many ways.
Now, would you say you and your brother are similar or different?
There's like white, black, there's like hot, cold, there's apples and oranges. That's me and my brother. I love him, very close with him, I have a special relationship with him, but he and I are very, very different personalities, which is great because he is so talented and so exceptional in so many ways, but it wasn't threatening for me growing up because we were always so different. And it was so clear to everybody that our talents were different and our abilities were different. How about you and your brother? You and your brother's no slouch either, by the way.
No, this is the brother episode, apparently. Your brother is a machine, Rabbi Moskowitz. He is like discipline, king of discipline machine. He puts us all to shame, but he is very inspiring. And my brother, too. Also, I have a younger brother, and different in many ways, similar in some. But different in many ways. Like he's a super genius and I'm not.
That's his team, by the way. The super genius brothers went to other things, and you and I went to
I would say that is the biggest difference. But we could talk more about that another time. Rabbi Brody, how is graduation going so far?
Well, graduation's great, but wouldn't it be great in the new Rabbi Sobolovsky shul if there was on the donor plaque wall it said friends of Behind the Bima?
That's right. I like that.
Donated to do Aron Kodesh or something.
That's a great point. So if you're taking a moment, you're going charity with a D, CHARIDY, charity.orhatorah.com. If you're going on, don't forget to mention you heard it on Behind the Bima. We have a very serious episode tonight. We are going to welcome on momentarily Dr. Leah Goldin, who is the mother of Hadar Goldin, Olav HaShalom, Hashem Yikom Damo, who was so unjustly, immorally murdered and then taken captive by Hamas, a wicked terrorist organization. And they did so during a ceasefire. It's heinous, it's egregious, it's unforgivable that a ceasefire that was brokered by the UN, pressured by the US and by the EU, and during that ceasefire, Israel ceased and Hamas kept firing. And they fired on Hadar Goldin and Oron. They killed them both. They took their bodies captive in one of the terror tunnels. And that was nearly 7 years ago. And for 7 years, the Goldin family has been fighting, advocating, lobbying, not for something they don't deserve. I mean, we're talking about a basic humanitarian, a basic moral responsibility, a basic part of international law. So we'll talk to her more about it. We've gotten to know the Goldins. They've been to our community, and their other son, Tsur, who, we'll ask her, but it's a crazy story how Tsur was involved in recovering bodies and almost went to go find his own brother, has been to our community. Tsur has been to our community. So we wish we knew the Goldins through something else. We've come to know them, and they really are great people, and your heart has to go out, and every one of us has to do whatever we can to help them. So we'll bring her on soon, but we'll take a couple moments beforehand. It's a very serious topic, a serious guest. Maybe it's something a little bit lighter, and we'd love to hear from you. We know there are people watching, there are people listening. Join us in the comments. Tell us what you want to hear. Ask your questions. Give us feedback. We'd love to know the audience is out there. So today we had our first of 2 planning days. We didn't really get to do it last year. Last year we did it in a much more modified Corona outdoor masked way. It was really kind of a counterfeit version of what we ordinarily do. But we, the senior staff, and today, for parts of today, the entire staff of BRS, we get together off-site. We have an undisclosed location. We can't tell you where it is. Off-site, undisclosed location. We have a box. Everyone puts their phone, laptops in that box. We are disconnected. And we are connected to one another. And we spend time analyzing, reflecting the previous year, thinking about planning for the year ahead, trying to study the different demographics, have a vision, have a plan, creativity, team building. And today we welcome 2 new members of our team who we will introduce on Behind the Bima at some point. Very excited to welcome 2 new members of the BRS staff. I don't want to tell you now because we are going to have them on. But one of the things, because we welcome those 2 new members, is we did some icebreakers to get to know one another better, build our morale, our sense of teamwork, and also to meet those 2 new people. So I want to bring to our audience, our listeners, posing to you some of the icebreaker questions that we asked. We asked several at different times in today's meeting with different people who had joined us for different parts of the meeting. But one of the questions we asked was, if you could write any book, what would you write about? If you have a book inside you, if you're going to author a book, what will that book be about? So Rabbi Brody, you told us it would be an audio book, but if you were going to
Yeah.
record a book, what would that book be about and why?
I think I started writing it this morning. It's very clear. I mean, I think there's unfortunately a lot of people that find it very easy to find differences and make bigger issues of things that don't really need to be such big issues. Everyone needs to just kind of let it go a little bit and start to realize there's not so much more that really divides us as much as unites us, and we can do it. We can really change the world if everyone kind of just doesn't have such big hang-ups about some of these issues, which at the end of the day probably are a little bit more trivial than people even talk about. So.
Do you have a title for this book?
What did I say today? I started saying, I used a word. I forgot what the word was.
I think it was chill out.
Yeah, just chill out. Everyone's got to just chill out. Everyone's just relax. That was it. Just relax. Everyone just needs to relax a little bit.
Relax by Rabbi Josh Brody.
Yeah, relax. You got an issue with something, which I'm sure you do. Just relax.
Are there people who are too relaxed that need to unrelax a little bit?
Yeah,
like
perhaps
get fired up a little bit?
Yeah, I'll fire them up about something. But you know what? The things that really divide us and the things that are really tearing us apart right now, both religiously and politically, there's no reason for it. There really is no reason for it. It's something which I believe can be fixed, and it can be fixed a lot easier than most people are actually thinking about. So
you heard it here first. Do we have a date for the release? Are you gonna right now take upon yourself?
I would love to make that announcement. But I'll tell you.
So once you're doing an audiobook, you just got to record yourself a little bit. Every time you're walking somewhere, just record another chapter.
The first page right now, so that that's the opening. But I would love to. If someone wants to help me write this book, if you believe in the concept, please call me, and we'll
Who would you call to write approbations in the back of the book? Who would you want that little jacket quote from, or the beginning of the book, the Haskamas? Give us a little insight into Rabbi Josh Brody by knowing who you would call.
I would have. There would be Rabbi Frand, and probably Howard Stern. Those are my two people that would probably. That's my. That would
be. I'm not even going to comment on that, but that would be the only book in all of history.
I was going to say that has the approbations from those two people.
Those are the only two that I would take.
I would say Behind the Bima does not condone or support whatever was just
endorse
said.
The opinions of those members.
That is the opinion only of Rabbi Brody. Rabbi Moskowitz, tell us about your book. What book is in your head? What is that book that is yet to be written, but that it's churning in your kishkas, and please God, you're gonna produce it at some point for the world.
My book would be about adversity, overcoming adversity, models, paradigms, people throughout history that have successfully overcome adversity, those who have not successfully overcome adversity. I think to explore it through obviously how Judaism explores that issue, characters in Tanakh and how they faced their own adversity, whether it was Esther, whether it was David HaMelech. There were numerous people throughout Tanakh that not only encountered adversity, but actually grew as a result of that. And then I would want to look throughout history as well. Any student of history knows that some of the greatest, most successful individuals in history faced really adverse, traumatic events in their lives and were able to overcome it and emerge even stronger. So I've long been enamored by that topic. I would love to explore it both from a history perspective, a Jewish history perspective, a Jewish textual perspective, and really write a motivational
What would be?
book.
Let me push you here. We didn't talk about this earlier, but it's not a push. It's first of all encouragement. I want to say Rabbi Moskowitz has become a prolific author, and for a long time did not want to produce writing, but now every week publishes a fantastic article that's not just lip service or platitude, but I mean it, and I've gotten great feedback, and I read them myself every single week, and Aisha Torah has been putting it on their website all the time. So the world should get this book. There must be countless books on adversity, dozens, hundreds, thousands, I don't know, in cultures and religions, in different languages, in different places. What will be unique or unusual? What will be your contribution about adversity that's not out there right now?
So, it's a great question. I think there are Jewish texts that do it. I think there are secular texts that do it. I don't know of texts that really merge the two. And what I mean by that is one of the really most impactful books I read recently was a book by Doris Kearns Goodwin. It's called Leadership in Turbulent Times. And it follows 4 presidents, and it identifies 4 major events in their life that they faced adversity head on, came out and emerged even stronger. And I would love to do that with that kind of idea with characters in Tanakh, blending the two together. So, whether it's Abraham Lincoln and the adversity that he faced in order to become who he became, but also, again, you have David HaMelech, you have Yosef, right? So many great leaders.
Now, why does adversity speak to you? Would you draw on your own life? I'm asking a very personal question. You could shut me down right now.
No, absolutely.
Would you draw on your own life?
It's funny.
Would you be vulnerable? Would you open up? Would you disclose?
Absolutely. I once asked Rabbi Dr. Jonathan Sachs, Rabbi Lord, Doctor, whatever other titles he had. I asked him about 7 years ago, I said, do you have any advice for a young rabbi? He said, Rabbi Moskowitz, I want you to speak less from your head and more from your heart. He said, you have to share your heart with people. And that would kind of be the genesis of the book. I believe strongly. I mean, everyone faces adversity. They say there are two things that are certain in life, death and taxes. I think adversity is another one of those. Everyone faces adversity. And I think it's the way that we emerge from that adversity that says a lot about us. So obviously, I'm an open book. I've been an open book on this podcast. Any of my classes, I'm an open book. In drushes, I'm an open book. I believe that Hashem gives you circumstances in life so that you can share them with other people and so that they can grow from those experiences. And yes, obviously my own personal experiences and my own personal struggles in life would be the kind of foundation for any book that I would write about the concept of adversity.
The world should get that book, and I can't wait to read it myself. And maybe after our interview, I'll share what I answered earlier today.
No, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Where I'm on that. But for now, it's a great honor and a privilege to be able to welcome. We are honored and privileged to be joined by Dr. Leah Goldin, and we are so grateful that you're spending time with us, and we deeply, deeply appreciate it on a topic that we know is painful and raw and is not yet closed, and we can't even begin to imagine how difficult it is each time that we talk about your beloved son, Hadar Hashem Yikom Damo, and Oron and the entire episode that happened and your work to bring him home. And so in advance, we thank you for your willingness to be with us and to talk about this difficult, painful topic.
Thank you. And good evening. Thank you for hosting me.
Absolutely. And it's not our first time. We were privileged and honored to have you in our shul here in Boca Raton. And your son Sur has been to our community, and we did an interview with him as well. And we are eager to help you continue to get the word out and to advocate and to stand up and to do all that we can to partner with you for justice that all decent people should be working on and should be involved in. August 1st, 2014, we're now almost 7 years ago, when Hadar was 23 years old, during what was supposed to be a U.S. mandated ceasefire against all international law. Hadar, Lieutenant Goldin, was abducted and was killed. And since then, you and the whole Jewish world, the Israeli people, decent people everywhere, have not yet been able to get his body back, to be able to have a proper burial and for closure, and to be able to mourn and grieve the way that you deserve. So before we jump into what's happening and why specifically now, what's unique about this moment, maybe if it's not too painful for you, you could just tell us, those who didn't have the privilege of knowing Hadar directly, a little bit about him, about his personality, about his life, about what these wicked, wicked terrorists did, what they've robbed the world of by taking his life so young.
Yeah. In Hebrew we say, היה לו עין טובה. He had a good eye. When he was born, my sister-in-law called him Neshumale, and actually he was a Neshumale, whatever he was looking at, no matter what was the issue, he would look for the good thing in the person, in the situation, and with his large smile that I keep saying, it was not just from the outside, it was from the inside. It just took us all, we couldn't resist his smile, and of course we all had to smile with him. So this is, if I may describe his personality. Now, on top of everything, he was very talented in his paintings, and you can see behind me, if you would like to see. And I don't know, maybe I'll.
We could see, yeah, we could see them.
You see the one with yeah? You see behind me?
Amazing.
The colorful one.
Beautiful.
And whatever painting he did, he usually gave it as a present to someone. So we don't have many of them at home. Now we have productions. So he left us with a wonderful legacy of painting that we've been displaying in exhibition around at the UN in New York, and we will be happy to do it. And even in Miami, actually, we did it. And he left us with a wonderful legacy in writings. His favorite was Mesilat Yesharim, the Book of Rights. He wrote his own explanation, and I think it took Simcha like 3 years to organize it, and so it will be edited like he did in his handwritings. And currently people are studying it, either religious or non-religious. It's amazing because he wrote his way of understanding the text on one side, and on the other side he wrote for himself what he should do in order to be a better person. So it's amazing because that's the way he lived, and interesting, he didn't sleep a lot, somehow he had to catch up, all that he wanted to do. So this is Adar, and we miss him very much.
Everything that's been said and written about him, he clearly was an extraordinary young man. Every young Israeli who serves in the IDF puts their life on the line for the people of Israel, for the state of Israel, for the land of Israel. Anything you can share in terms of Hadar's commitment to Am Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, to his service in the army and the attitude that he brought, and even to any indication he ever gave, as many soldiers do, about the possibility and the risk that they're putting on the line to protect the Jewish people.
Look, being Israelis, it's obvious to join the army. It's mandatory to go to the army. And actually, all my family are officers except me. I'm the chief of staff, but all of them are officers. And it was obvious that he will be a fighter. And amazingly, he finished the officers' course with excellence, so he could choose what the next job. So his next role that he asked for is actually to train the newcomers to the army, which means to do again all this effort of we call it tirunut, the basic training. And amazing! It was amazing to hear his soldiers about him being not just a commander, but being like a father to them. While they were doing they had to guard at night. They were not afraid from nothing, except when they heard his running legs jumping. They knew he was bringing them a cup of tea.
Wow.
So this is Adar, very, very firm and very precise and on every detail, but full-hearted. And he left. I mean, we learned it from his soldiers, all his slogans. When you do something good, think about how to do it better. Or you have two options in life. To deal with yourself or to do great things, and it sounds so simple and so straight, but amazingly, these kind of sentences actually motivate them to do the best they could. And all his team became, they became the excellent, how do you say, mitztayen?
Excellent,
Yeah.
Amazing. And, his murder, his loss is a crime against humanity, obviously devastating for your family. And for almost 7 years, your whole family have worked tirelessly to bring him home. And you've been fighting right now through this recent escalation in Israel, and I know you called for the ceasefire not happening without the bodies being returned. What's unique about this moment in time? There's been some headlines that there are negotiations about bringing them home. Is there something different or unique in these 7 years that presents an opportunity right now?
It's unique and special, and it's not just unique. How would they say? It's clear. It's clear that now it has to be done. And going backwards, Hadar was killed in violation of a ceasefire. Actually, on August 1st, 2 hours after ceasefire was declared, Hamas violated this ceasefire, killed him, his team, and abducted him into the underground terror tunnel. Now, it took us like 2 years when we met Nikki Haley at the UN, and she promised to help us to bring the discussion to the UN Security Council, which happened by the end of 2017, almost 3 years after the incident. And we came along with Professor Erwin Kotler, previous Justice Minister of Canada and well-known human rights activist. So actually, he built the legal framing of Hadar case that is a humanitarian case where the Hamas and the PA, as representing the Palestinian families, are in a standing violation of the international humanitarian law as long as they do not return Hadar. Now, this framing was very important because a year later, there was a resolution by the UN Security Council, number 2474, actually, which is a change of attitude. It says wherever there is a conflict in the world, when the UN members, the good countries, initiate agreements after the conflict, any agreement, ceasefire agreement, a commercial peace process agreement, whatever, then the UN members that initiate those agreements are responsible to return the missing persons and the remains of the dead as a confidence-building step. So actually, once this became like a UN resolution, we were invited by Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, who personally promised us that he is going to implement it on Hadar and Oron case, because that at the same time, it was the US peace plan, building up, and the whole region discussing peace agreements. So actually, we tried hard, we went to the White House and to the State Department. We met Jason Greenblatt, David Friedman, Nikki Haley. It was all clear that now, once the humanitarian law is with us, we have the ground to request the return of Hadar as part of any humanitarian support to Gaza. But at that time, it was hard to deliver the message, because we've been warned that if we try to put pressure on Hamas, they will start a war, or it will be, disease and all kind of threats. But now we had a war that was imposed on us. We didn't want that war. So now, having this war, and now getting into the process of the agreements, this is the time to rectify the previous ceasefire problem, because unless they do that, it means that they institutionalize a new format of ceasefire where the Hamas is allowed to kidnap and kill our soldiers, and that's fine. Now, I've been saying this to American officials for 2 years or 3 years. But now we are trying hard with this message. First of all, with the Israelis, that we will talk about it later, but especially with American officials, because America is now leading this ceasefire process, same as they did on 2014. And it was the same players. President Biden on 2014 was vice president of Obama. John Kerry was there, and the whole act, it's the same players. It's like the stars are aligned now, and same in Israel. All the personas are the same personas. Netanyahu was the prime minister. Gantz was the chief of staff, and go on, all of them there. So now it's a special opportunity where we discuss ceasefire. So we are not going to do any harm to anything in the world, except if Adar is part of the humanitarian problem, Adar and Oron, they should be resolved within the humanitarian solution, but as a confidence building step, meaning not to start anything before they return them, same as your president did with North Korea, not meeting the North Korean president before releasing the hostages. Now same discussion goes to the Iranian. Okay, so actually America knows how to deal with hostages. So what we need now, and this is my request to you, to approach your administration to request the return of Adar and Ron as an American request, if they want to have credibility on any ceasefire they lead, and what they easily can do is they approach the Egyptian, that are the current mediators, same as they were on 2014. So everything is there. We just need. I've sent a letter to Blinken. He kindly responded, but that's all I can do. But if you can find a way to get closer to the decision maker, so they can put our case on the agenda as an American request, which is purely humanitarian. It doesn't cost money. It doesn't have to. You don't have to build anything. So this is the way we look at it, as a special opportunity, and actually a narrow window of time, because it will take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and the decision will be made.
Why do you think they resist? Why do you think? Why do you think they're resisting? If the Americans, it's the law, it's international law, it's humanitarian, it's moral, it's obvious, it's the same personalities, the same players. They have the opportunity to fix and rectify what they failed once. Why do you think they're resisting? Why aren't they acting?
They don't resist. No one resists, but no one is doing anything. Our frustration is that for the last 7 years, actually no one requested the return. It's like silencing everything. I mean, we've been silenced, saying you should not talk because the price will rise, in terms of releasing terrorists, which that's what the terrorists want. But now, being after the war, when the Hamas is at a lower stage, and they need us, they need the world, they need everyone, because that's what they know, are used to, that's what they do, they create crisis to their own people and to us, and then request the help of the whole world. So now it's the time to put a request. I mean, not be silent. I mean, silencing is the worst thing that we are evidencing. And it took me a while to realize that. Only just before the COVID-19, we had the Hadar's art exhibition at the European Parliament in Strasbourg, where I met friends of Qatar. As you know, Qatar is providing hundreds of $millions every month to Gaza. So I asked this lady from Romania that does not like very much Jews, I said, do you think that for like $10 million Hadar can be back? She said, sure, but no one is asking.
Wow.
Simple as that.
Wow.
Simple as that. So we need to ask, to request, not allow anyone to silence us on this
To
issue.
demand. Not even ask, to demand.
So you've given our listeners homework for a second week in a row. Last week we asked them to flood Congressman Torres with appreciation. This week we're asking our listeners to raise their voices to bring Hadar back, which is obviously so important to so many of us. And I want to pivot a little bit to a different type of a question, if that's okay. And that's something that I interacted with your other son, Tsur, with when he was in America. Tsur came with his unit from the Army to Boca Raton. We hosted them for a week. And it was under this incredible program called Peace of Mind, where it interacts with units that saw heavy battle and has discussions about post-traumatic stress, the consequences of war, the emotional toll that it takes on war. And one of the things that I'm struck by every single time is that you have guys who are 5, sometimes 10 years out of the battle, and they say, we're fine, we don't need this, it's just a vacation in America. And then a couple of days into the program, they always come up to me and they say, wow, we didn't realize how badly we needed an opportunity to be able to process what we saw and what we experienced and what we went through. As a mother, obviously, who has a unique story in the narrative of the state of Israel and whose sons fought so valiantly on the front lines for the state of Israel, do you sense that when boys go into the army and when they come out of the army, they're provided with the support and the services that they need, that they're given the opportunity to process what they saw? What's the impact that it has on families that Americans might not be appreciative of? We see a war starts, a war ends, and then people kind of go back to normal. But obviously for families that went through it in a much more significant and intimate way, the effects, both for people that made it out and people that did not, are much more everlasting.
Wow. This is a huge question and a very important one, because now it's under discussion in Israel. For years, people just ignored the effect of trauma, being in the army. Now, we specifically talk about times of war, not the normal. Even so, even normal service in the army can create trauma. It's there, but experiencing war, what I can tell you, it's a problem. It's a problem. It starts with the youngsters that reject it. We are fine, as you said, and they are not fine. And we are the mothers are first to know that it's not there. Now, of course, it looks from the outside that everything is fine, studying or going to work. Personally, the fact that our boys or girls after the army, they go for a year or two to travel the world, shows that they cannot concentrate. I mean, they need this experience to gather themselves to start studying. And I can tell you that it's a big problem. It's a big problem. So from our point of view of the families, we push hard to get some treatment, But also the other side, there are families that cannot afford it. So it means that they depend on the system, which does not do very well in this case, because they have all these exams, and diagnosis, which is terrible. So the problem is there, and we try hard to find solutions. Talking about ourselves, now back to our case. Actually, both of them, Adar and Tzur, I think I told you, they went together to Gaza on Operation Protective Edge, and after the war, we learned that they were 400 meters apart.
Wow.
Now, Hadar was part of a Givati, an elite unit that had to guard the engineering forces that destroyed the underground tunnel, terror tunnel, while Tzur was commanding a rescue force going back and forth to Gaza to rescue IDF soldiers wounded or dead, a lot of his friends. And he also rescued between 40 to 50 Palestinians that were caught between fire because they used them as human shields. And while he was doing this humanitarian thing, the Hamas violated the humanitarian ceasefire, killing his brother and kidnapped and abducted him into the tunnel. And, Tzur was called to rescue Hadar. He didn't know at that time, but by the time he got to the place, they stopped him. They stopped him and sent him back to the border. So, he's next room now. So I'm So actually, I keep saying that he's still running after his brother,
Right.
And I can tell you about when he was studying and doing his work. I was quite troubled because I knew he has difficulties in concentrating. Those long night calls, asking me questions. He studied law and history, which I'm a software engineer, so I'm not in this subject at all. But then he would call me just to talk, just to and it's difficult. So I was very happy once they were invited to Miami, and we had to push him because he's, like you said, he said, no, we're fine. But coming back, they really appreciated what happened. And the whole project is wonderful. It's like a 1-year project.
Yeah.
And
it's an amazing project. And I find it ironic just because, when people are in the Army, there's so many services, especially from an American perspective. You have FIDF and you have so much support services, and you just don't get that sense that once they leave, there's this bravado, macho attitude in Israel that says, everything's fine, go back to your regular life. I did it, you did it, your grandfather did it, everyone's fine. And unfortunately, it's important for people to realize that the effects do linger long after.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just wondering
Thank you so much for whatever you do. It's so important. So
it's a tiny.
we will not have to do it. But if it happens, if we have war, then this is very important and very special to us.
It's the smallest gesture in the world, and obviously to do this for our soldiers who are not only protecting Israel, they're protecting Jews everywhere in the world. We know that they would be there for us. It's the least we could do, and we would encourage other communities, if you're listening, peace of mind. Bring peace of mind to your community. It's an expensive proposition, but it's worth every penny to invest in the Jewish people and the people who risk their lives for us. Rabbi Brody.
Yeah, we can't wait to bring them back again, God willing, soon. I'm just wondering, with each new election that takes place, and there's been a lot lately, with each new government that is formed or you try to form, is that a reason to be more optimistic? Do you say, okay, with this new government, maybe there's a change, maybe there's something that can happen? Or do you say, well, now we've got to start again from the beginning. We've got to really, really just start from the first step?
Wow. We are very troubled with all the political situation, dealing with Hadar and Doron and soldiers that are apolitical. We work hard to push back, all the every people that are trying to tag us, either we've been left wing and we've been right wing and extreme left and extreme right. So I'm trying to be very, very careful in answering you because our case is not political at all. Unfortunately, I'm not optimistic. During 2 years, having 4-time elections is not normal by any criteria, And what is very frustrating to us and Israelis in general is that we are dealing with the same personas, no matter how they call them, how they present themselves, what's the name of the party, or what is their stand. These are the same personas. And when you get disappointed from a persona, that's how it works with me and most people. It doesn't matter anymore. And it shows that the Israeli frustration,
right,
I believe, is shown in the results of the elections, because there is no decision. We don't know. Everyone feels in Israel that we need a change. You cannot, a wise person said, you cannot do the same and expect different results, So there must be a change, because it cannot continue like it is here. And we are very worried. Because everything is stuck. And I can tell you from my family point of view, I don't know if I educated my kids right or wrong, but everyone is doing something for our society, I'm fighting for the soldiers. My son Chemi, the second one, is working with foundation of families of children, disabled children. So he's a lawyer. So he's fighting for them to get what they should get against according to the law, but they don't get it because everything is stuck, And my daughter Ayelet is working with Shomer Hadash, if you know.
Sure.
She's a senior manager, and during the COVID-19, she was assigning per day like more than 1,000 volunteers to the farmers in the south. So what I'm trying to say, what happens, we are still fine because we have wonderful people that volunteer to help and to assist, but the system is stuck.
Right.
And we don't know. You don't know. There is no right answer to it, but we are quite worried, and we don't see the solution yet.
Hopefully there's a light at the end of this somewhere, and there's a brighter future so we can break out of this gridlock, and leaders will emerge with leadership and courage to take on this cause and others. Hamas has been quoted as saying that they would entertain a negotiation with a prisoner exchange like in the Gilad Shalit deal. And obviously that was and is very controversial in terms of what the cost or what you pay or what dangers there are by putting terrorists back on the street. And I don't want to put you on the spot if you're not comfortable answering, but you and your family, in terms of if that would be the cost, if that's what it would take to bring Hadar home, are you open or would you support Israel in such a negotiation?
Look, this is the question that we've been asked for the last 7 years. And what this question show is what the Hamas wants, what the terrorist wants. It doesn't show what we want, and the fact that we've been kidnapping our soldiers for the last 30 years, requesting the release of terrorists, and the Gilad Shalit case was the worst one, means that terror wins. This is the situation. Now, we are trying hard since day one, and even in Gilad Shalit case, we were opposing this solution because it's bad. It's bad if you give in to terror. And our perspective, as Tzur articulated, it's time to flip the equation. Instead of letting the Hamas requesting a price for releasing our hostages in terms of terrorists, it's time that we flip the equation and we, Israel, declare the price for the Hamas for holding our soldiers and for not releasing them. So it will become for them a liability rather than an asset. Now, this is a long-range solution because if it turns to a liability, they will think twice because for the next idea of kidnapping a soldier. But while we were talking about, we were just talking logic and in terms of the right thing to do. But now having the UN Security Council resolution 2474, it is specifically said that you should not provide them any humanitarian, you should provide humanitarian aid, but you have to request the return of the missing persons and the remains of the dead as a confidence building step, which goes on the same, it's the same idea. So now we feel much more released, not just having these crazy family ideas, but having it as the right thing to do. Now, talking about yesterday is very frustrating. The 111, in Israel, it became like a slogan. What do you say about the 1111 Hamas request? And I'm furious about it. I mean, even tagging it, like in a slogan. Now, first of all, it shows that Hamas is in a very low situation because they cry out. Probably they are under pressure, definitely. But what I've been told is actually what they speak out is to their own prisoners. They want to calm them, But this is not important. I'm not interested about what the terror says. I mean, in the same sentence, they also say that they want Jerusalem. So what?
Right.
So what? It's terror. The question is now, what is our request? And when I say our request, of course, the Israeli is important, but more important, currently at that point, is the American request.
Mm. So that's because a perfect segue.
America has leverage on Egypt, who have leverage on Hamas, and this is how it can work out, be done.
It's a perfect segue to the last question. We're so grateful for the time you spent with us. We know it's an inconvenient hour, and we're grateful it's a topic which is painful, but hopefully we're getting the message and the word out, and it just takes the right person listening who has access to put pressure in the right place, and miracles can happen. It's happened throughout Jewish history. It happened in the modern history of the state of Israel. And if you're listening, don't think that you have a license to be indifferent. Don't think that you can ignore. If you feel the plight and the pain of the Goldin family and of all of the Jewish people, then you gotta put pressure wherever it can be. So in closing, and again, thank you for all this time. What's the message? What's the homework? You already mentioned that anyone we know, elected officials, anyone with access to the administration, ask them to make the request. It's now on the books. It's international law. It's the law at the UN. It's a human rights. It's as simple as they're making the request or making it the condition to humanitarian aid. The precondition to humanitarian aid is doing what the law governs in the humanitarian. So everyone should call their elected officials, should put that pressure. What else? What other message do you have for our audience? What they can be doing, what they should be doing, in addition, of course, to heartfelt prayers?
Yeah, this is, I mean, thank you for expressing it so nicely. So this is the basic request, but what I learned more during the recent 2 years, that, talking about countries involves a lot of political issues. And maybe we have other channels to bring at our home, or put a request based on other channels. Channels can be business channels. Lucky us, Jews are all over the world. No matter where they live, they do business all over the world. So if people can approach the Egyptian president, Assisi, he's the one. I mean, if he decides to do it and instruct his people, it will be done, because he has leverage. At the end of the day, he will do the delivery. And Egypt is the gatekeeper of the Hamas. And now there is, on the other side, are the Qatars, that are the Muslim brothers, and they support also Gaza financially. So on business level or business channels, if there are any of the audience that have any not contact or interfaces to decision makers in these countries, I believe that if this request is put under the humanitarian request, it will be accepted. It will be positively. The response will be positive, because all those countries, Arabic countries, either Qatar or Egypt, are looking for getting credit points in matters of human rights, and this is a real human rights issue. I'm fighting for the human rights of our soldiers, and I believe that discussing human rights is also already it's usually based on humans, not on countries, on cases of human people, humans. So if anyone has any contact, any way to approach those kind of decision makers, I don't know, in Iran, I'm Turkey, I don't know, whoever has leverage on Hamas, it can be very, very, very helpful. So
we will continue to fight.
Arvut adadit, how do you say in English?
Yeah, the mutual responsibility and.
Yeah, it's a Jewish matter. It's a Jewish matter that we should all share hands and try to resolve it.
Amen.
I know that you've been insistent that Hadar Oron not be referred to as deceased, but as missing in action, and I think that that's a very powerful way to portray it. Whatever lengths we would go, whatever we would do, if we saw them as missing in action alive, is the length we need to go to let our young people know that we won't stop until we bring them home, whether they're alive or not. That missing in action is the description. They're being held unjustly against international law, and decent people, Jewish and non-Jewish, pro-Israel or not, should be stepping up and fighting for this basic human rights violation and human rights requirement and need. So we thank you, Dr. Leah Goldin. Thank you for being with us. We hope and we pray and we will continue to act, and we look forward to, please God, welcoming you back to our community or seeing you in the land of Israel after, hopefully, please God, we've been able to bring the boys home and you have the closure that you deserve and the mourning that you deserve to be able to experience, and to be able to only have simcha with the rest of your family and nachat from your very, very beautiful family. Thank you so much for being with us.
Amen.
Thank you, תודה רבה, and עושים חס, שיהיה רק שמחות.
Amen. Okay, we are back. So grateful that she was able to join us, Leah Goldin. It's a sad topic, a powerful topic, a painful topic. And, behind the Bima started out light and funny and an opportunity for us to see people during Corona, not necessarily see actually literally, but you to see us and just to, in Rabbi Brody's upcoming book, just to relax together, to chill out together. But this is a topic that was important to share and to reflect about. And hopefully, one person listening, you call the right person, the right pressure is put, and Hadar and Oron can be brought home. She deserves it. The Goldin family deserves it. We daven in our shul. We have Misha Berach every week, we say. And we continue to daven that our soldiers are safe and that they need to know that if, God forbid, anything ever happens to them, they would be brought back. She didn't say it explicitly. I love the image that she said. I don't love, but I'm persuaded, I find compelling, that we got to flip it on its head from an asset to a liability. And I'm sure the international community would go crazy, the collective punishment. But why can't we turn the lights off in Gaza and say the electricity doesn't go back on till the bodies are back? Why don't we ever play hardball? Why don't we say that the humanitarian, like she said, the prerequisite to the humanitarian aid is humanitarian behavior. So yeah, there's a whole lot that will be brought into Gaza. There's a whole lot that will help rebuild in a just and honest way, but it doesn't begin until the bodies are released. Why does the world tolerate? Why does America? Why does Europe? Why does anyone tolerate that? So we need courageous people to step up and make that difference.
Amongst her many extraordinary qualities, I always give her and other mothers like her such an enormous amount of credit to go through what they went through. We talked a little bit about overcoming adversity and dealing with adversity and managing it, to be able to go through what her family went through and not to crumble under the weight of it, but to really use it as a platform and to advocate on behalf of her son and to be outspoken. And I'm sure each interview and each opportunity is difficult and painful and rehashes so many harsh memories, but she does it. She has that inner strength and resolve, and her husband as well. And I know Tsur, when he was in our community, spoke so powerfully from the pulpit about it. And I think it's such an incredible statement about who they are, that they take this opportunity and use it as a platform to better the world.
7 years. 7 years is a long time. Day in, day out, waiting, hoping a message, some update. 7 years waiting to grieve and mourn properly.
But it does make you wonder why it's not more of an issue in the Jewish community. In other words, sure, we do say it's tefillah for him, once a week, but there's no active campaign in any major Jewish community that I know of to help this cause. And just imagine if everyone said, this week we're going to do that. And you could say, well, there's going to be so many different causes. It's going to be overwhelming for communities, but maybe that's what we should be doing. You get the whole Jewish world to do it.
We got great feedback even from Congressman Torres' office last week. It was inundated with messages after we had him on, and I think, was it Vass is Nice, Yeshiva World News, I forgot which one, actually did a whole article and a link, Vass is Nice, and a link to Behind the Bima to promote everybody expressing gratitude to Congressman Torres, as you mentioned, Rabbi Moskowitz. So it's as simple as people listening, watching. If you know someone who's in a position of influence, email them, send them this link. Send them a link to any interview, or just Google Hadar Goldin, Leah Goldin, and you'll find this. And it's just finding, she referenced this, it's finding the right person, the right time, who has the right contact, and who uses it. It could be a congressman, it could be a senator, it could be a business person who has that leverage. It's just a matter of holding those who are in charge accountable, of making that request and of making it happen.
It's so funny. I've been thinking, as Rabbi Brody, as you were talking, like a theme over the last number of weeks, whether it was Congressman Torres, whether it was, JNF and the work that they're doing in Chalutza. It's really use your voice and use your resources. Like, don't stand on the sidelines. Every one of us knows people. Every one of us has been blessed with certain either oratorical skills or right? We all have abilities, and all we're encouraging you to do is wherever your passion lies, whichever interview inspires you and says, that's the cause that I want to get behind something. If you're our listeners, we don't want you to be passive in this experience. Like, get off the sidelines, find something that you're passionate about and say, I'm going to make my difference. And I think whether it was Congressman Torres, whether it was Hadar Goldin, whether it was Yedidia Harushin Chalutza, where he raised money for a bomb shelter, like every single one of our listeners has the capacity to make a difference. And I think that's such a great lesson from the show.
It's a common theme from the show. You go all the way back to Malcolm Hoenlein. And Malcolm Hoenlein gave all of us a tutorial in making a difference, gave us his history, his journey towards leading the Conference of Presidents. And Malcolm Hoenlein really gave a tutorial on making that difference. And Ben Brafman and Ben Shapiro, and you go through that whole list. It's funny, we've had so many guests. We've been doing this now for so long. What started on a whim, what started for fun. We've had really high-profile guests, and we've learned a lot. We personally have learned a lot. Hopefully, we've been able to bring that learning.
But this is the first
out.
episode, I think, that's been done from a car, Rabbi Brody, while it's dry. I'm getting dizzy. Who's that in the back?
Just
Which one
for
of
the
your
record,
daughters in the back?
Driving.
I was going to ask
Ramon
you.
is driving. I'm the passenger. We're moving on.
That's why the car is moving fast. I see how fast it's moving.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why
He's driving.
Anyone who
I've never been
knows-
in a car driving this fast in my life.
Anyone who knows Rabbi Brody's personality would never believe that he drives slower than the octogenarians in our community. If you knew Rabbi Brody, if you knew that he wants to write a book called Relax, Chill Out, if you knew Rabbi Brody's personality, drummer,
Daisy.
heavy metal, you'd think Rabbi Brody's like flying around Montoya Circle. I can't drive with Rabbi Brody anywhere. He drives like I can't describe it because I don't want to offend anyone else.
She would agree with everything you say. She doesn't like driving with me.
He's so slow. Why do you think that is? Where does that come from?
What's the rush? Where's everyone going?
That's
I
the
guess that's
relax.
part of Relax.
That's his book.
That's what I'm saying. And everyone, you know what? I'll tell you where everyone's going. Everyone's going just trying to get somewhere to argue with someone else. Like, relax. You don't even have to do that.
Maybe that should be a tagline. Your book should be called Relax. You'll get there when you get there.
You get there when you get. That's exactly what happens. You get there.
Relax. Relax.
Now, that does also explain Rabbi Brody's sense of time, right? Rabbi Brody would be like, I'm there in 2 minutes. And then like 45 minutes later. But I guess when you drive at the pace that you drive, 2 minutes becomes 45 minutes.
Yeah,
it's true.
Exactly. She's nodding as well again.
That's true. Rabbi Brody, who drives faster, you or your mother?
That would actually be a great race around the circle to see who comes in first.
There are people in our community with their walker who would get there before you do the way you drive.
No, they're Shabbos scooter. They're Shabbos scooter.
The Shabbos scooter? I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah,
Well,
we should do that.
We have an announcement. We are going to be taking a small break this summer from Behind the Bima, but we will not leave you without anything to watch or listen to because it's being worked on already right now. A best of episode or a couple episodes that are best of to take the many, many, many people we've interviewed, take the best 5-minute clip from each of those interviews and to create some best of episodes that people can watch, catch up. Maybe you're a latecomer to Behind the Bima and you only joined more recently. I'll tell you, I would want to watch that, not because I have any wisdom. We've interviewed great people.
Let me ask you a question. You know, as you referenced a little bit earlier, this started as kind of like a little joke and we want to interact with our members and connect with them better. What to you, Rabbi Goldberg, has been the biggest surprise Behind the Bima, right? We're a year plus in. It's become a mainstay in our homes. Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Our kids know, like, whatever's happening, daddy's shutting down, the internet's got to free up because you need all the Wi-Fi you can get. What's been the biggest surprise a year plus into this venture?
That anybody's watching or listening. It's an enormous surprise. We meet people, they're like, I love Behind the Bima. I'll tell you the truth. If you had an hour and you could listen to Behind the Bima or my Parsha class or Behind the Bima or Rabbi Moskowitz's Tehillim class, listen to our Torah. We want to be known by our Torah. We want to share Torah. You know, you can't say a Birchas HaTorah on Behind the Bima as much as we enjoy it, and hopefully it shares some wisdom and entertainment, inspiration, access to some people. But we're most proud of the Torah that we teach, that we share, that we learn. And if somebody came up to me and they said, I have an hour a day or a week to listen to a podcast, what should it be? In a heartbeat, I would recommend other people's Torah or shiurim that we're giving before it would be Behind the Bima. But, you know, it's an honor and a privilege that people bring us into their homes and their lives, that they watch and that they listen. And again, I think that hopefully our banter, our friendship, I'll tell you what's a big surprise is how I'm constantly surprised, startled, shocked when people say, wow, you rabbis really get along. Like the three of you, and not just the three of us. I think the most popular, if not one of the top 3 or 5 most popular episodes of Behind the Bima, when we had on all of our colleagues, we had all the rabbis of BRS and their wives, rabbis and rebbitzins. We did a 3.5-hour marathon that only ended because of somebody's bladder. And how it has an enormous amount of people who watch that. And everyone afterwards is like, wow, you guys really like each other. You really get along. And I'm like, yeah. Why is that so surprising? So that surprises me, how surprising that is to other people. But, as long as people want to tune in and as long as we can access and share the wisdom of others, really great people. One of the things we're considering, even though we have many more people scheduled, we have a list of wonderful people, prominent people, wise people, inspirational people, a great list. I don't want to tease it out right now, but some really phenomenal people. But there are people that we already interviewed. Maybe it's time to go to round 2. It's not unusual. A lot of podcasts, a lot of interview shows. They bring back repeat guests who have a lot to share. We always leave you wanting more. Somebody once criticized me. Why are the interviews so short? The interview should be the whole show. The interview should be an hour and a half. I said, got to leave them wanting more. So maybe it's time to bring back some of those guests. Who would you, if you're still watching, you want to write in the comments or you want to let us know if you're listening later, who from the long list of people that we've had, who would you want to bring back? Who do you want to continue that conversation? What questions are still unanswered?
The moms.
Moms.
The moms.
Just bring the mother-in-laws. That's been also.
No, I'll tell you, it'd be a great episode. The sisters. Bring our sisters.
Yeah.
Because the moms were nice and generous in their like compliments of us. The siblings give it to us straight.
No,
I think that'd be a
what?
great episode.
My sister on this show would shock everyone. You have no idea.
Does your sister even know about the show? Has she heard of it?
I don't think my sister has internet.
She hasn't heard of the show yet.
You will see such a sibling, dynamic. You've never seen this before.
What about our kids? What about children? Rabbi's children episode.
I don't know if my kids are there yet. They're still a little on the young side.
Moshe? No, Moshe's got it.
Moshe doesn't know enough to be filtered. That's what I'm more worried about.
Yeah, we could do Rabbi's children. Maybe let them host it. They could run a whole show.
That's what I'm surprised about. I had a meeting with a guy this week, actually. I told you guys about this. Guy comes to meet with me, and about 2 minutes into the meeting, he says, Rabbi Moskowitz, I have to stop you. He says, I know so much about you. He said, maybe you should know. He said, I feel it's like an unbalanced relationship right now. I listen to you every Wednesday night. I'm in your home every Wednesday night. I know about you. I know about your life. I know about everything that goes on. He goes, you don't know anything about me. Let's balance that relationship a little bit more. Let me tell you a little bit about me. And then I referenced something. He goes, yeah, I know. He's like, you spoke about it behind the Bima, shared it with thousands of people. I know about that. So, one of the things that he was reflecting to me upon was, I don't think many people have a relationship with a rabbi necessarily where they see like the normal human side of that rabbi. We call it the banter, but it's really like what we behind the Bima, right? It's things that you don't ordinarily see the side of a rabbi with. You don't ordinarily see the rabbis talking about the anxiety of counting sphira, like things like that. I'm surprised by how much that resonates with Balabatim outside of our community who are just enthralled by that, by seeing the behind the scenes of the rabbinate.
You know what we didn't get? That's a great point. You know what we didn't get to tonight? Maybe we'll start next week's episode because it's already late. Let's call it a night. We didn't talk about the rabbinic vacations that are coming up after 2 years. Last summer, we didn't take a vacation. And we were going to talk about Rabbi Brody turning off all notifications, his ability to disconnect and maybe share some of that with us. And talk about, if people want the behind the scenes, behind the beam about rabbis on vacation, what's it like? Where do we go? Why do we need it? What are we worried about? Do we worry about taking off of our
Do you like being
classes next year
stopped,
and
Rabbi
going away?
Goldberg? You're going to be in a certain geographic location this summer. Someone's behind the Bima fan sees you. Do you want them to come over, or are you like, I'm on vacation this summer?
First of all, I love all people. I love learning. I love meeting people, learning about people, connecting with people. It's awkward when it's flattering. It's amazing when people say nice things. It's still very uncomfortable. The only part about it is when my wife or kids are there, and I'm like, you see, there are people who listen to my classes, read my articles. Like, it's nice. It's nice for them. If they can get, I have tremendous nachas from them. If they could get nachas from me, I'm happy to provide that. But I love meeting people. Like, if we could have a conversation. Oh, I heard the shir. What do you think about this? I want to tell you my interpretation. I have that question. You mentioned this is behind the Bima. I also went there. I love to have a conversation. The part that's if someone offers flattery, it's very flattering. It's humbling. It's sweet. I appreciate it. But that's the part that's still uncomfortable.
I don't know. I'm carrying around a Sharpie pen this summer. If anyone wants autographs, just let me know. I'd be happy to autograph anything.
You're available. This summer, maybe you'll be back in time for this summer. Simone's driving, so you'll be back in time. If you were driving, I'd be nervous about your being back for Shabbos.
Right.
Yeah. Where was graduation tonight?
It was actually a place that you might have heard of. It's called the Trump Doral. don't know if you might have
I know
left anything there.
someone who made a wedding there this week, but the wedding
Right.
invitation said the National Doral or the Doral Hotel. Like there are
Right.
people now who are leaving out part of the name of the establishment. That's
But
where
it
we're
was
at.
funny. It's funny as we were leaving. So we see, it's our third daughter graduating high school. So a bunch of people saying, "Oh, finally we're done. Everyone's off. No more tuition."
You're like, I'm only halfway through.
What do you mean? I got a kindergarten graduation tomorrow morning.
Baruch Hashem, you're a blessed man. All those who want to be blessed should be blessed to be able to have those graduations
Amen.
and so on. But I want to tell you what the best is.
Hopefully we're gonna make it. It's at 9:30 in the morning.
I told you, because Simone's driving, you'll make it. But it's worth it. It's to get to those grandchildren. It's worth it. It's the best. You play with them during the day and you get to sleep at night. It's the best. It's the best. Everybody should be zoch. Everybody should merit and be blessed to know what that is and to experience that, to get there. So it's great. All right, gentlemen, another important episode, important conversation. We've had some heavy episodes, and we appreciate the audience who sticks with us and cares about these topics and wants to work on it, advocate, who wants to express that voice of make that difference and make that change. So thank you for sticking with us. We're going to have maybe a little bit lighter, more inspirational or different inspirational next week. So keep joining us. And until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay holy.